Good morning, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Multiverse. We have people in the sanctuary as roomies. There are people in the fellowship hall as roomies. And of course, there's people in the Zoomiverse, our beloved Zoomies. And I am grateful for you all to be here, and it's wonderful to see so many people flitting about. It fills my heart. Thank you for your patience and your learning and your growth as we navigate our multi-platform services. I know sometimes it can be confusing when you see somebody up here with a phone, thinking, what are they doing? And usually it is actually checking the Zoom chat or some other technology. So we're here. We are trying to be as accessible as possible, and that creates space for all of us. On Zoom, if you haven't already done so, you can see all the other people in their little Zoom boxes and experience that Zoomiverse. If you're here in person, look around, see who you see. If you're in the fellowship hall, or maybe out with some of the wee ones, wave, smile. Thank you. You are all welcome here today. In all the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes, and sizes that come together in your uniqueness. You are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the ways that you make your living and the places that you are from, you are welcome here. Christian, pagan, humanist, Muslim, Jew, Unitarian, Universalist, with all of the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here today. And no matter how long you are away, nor how soon you will return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you here today. This congregation is committed to being a center for spiritual exploration and justice making. We have many opportunities during the week for social connection and spiritual growth. Our focus for this year is bound together, recognizing that no one is free when others are oppressed. Because we live in a time, still and unfortunately, when Black, Indigenous, Asian, Hispanic, Latina, Latino, Latinx, and other peoples of color are devalued, violated, and killed because of systemic racism. So we commit ourselves to becoming anti-racist in ourselves and in our institutions by taking actions to dismantle racism in society, taking guidance from and honoring the lived experience of those who identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and other peoples of color, and developing personal relationships between cultures. Our 2021 areas of active justice engagement include immigration, climate change, and mental health. Each year, we reaffirm our commitments as we deepen our relationship with our community and our planet. We also acknowledge that the Boulder Valley and the Front Range of Colorado is the territory of the Arapaho people. Many Arapaho people were massacred by the U.S. Cavalry at Sand Creek, Colorado in 1864. The survivors were forced out of Colorado to reservations in Wyoming and Oklahoma, where most live today. we embrace the moral obligation to take meaningful action to work to mend the deep generational wounds under the guidance and direction of Indigenous leaders in right relationship with Boulder County. If you are new here, we are so glad you found us and hope that in this community, both in person and virtually, you can experience the warmth and love of this congregation. Each Sunday, actually each day, is a little different here. So please come back a few times to really get to know us. And if you want to get better connected in the Zoomiverse, please see the chat window, and in person, the greeter or welcome table outside these double doors or near the near the entrance off of the series entrance. You can get more information and get better connected. You can also email our office manager, Carol, at officemanager@bvuuf.org. And for Zoomies, that information is going into the chat. We also have a fellowship calendar on our website and the Connections Weekly, which is another way to stay connected. And the Connections Weekly only comes out once a week, so it's not something that you would get inundated with. Finally, if anybody is here, either virtually or in person, and you want to introduce yourself, raise your hand. You're not obligated to. You can fly under the radar a little bit today. But we do like to know who is among us. Anybody new? Okay. Everybody is invited virtually to stay afterwards for a virtual coffee hour on Zoom. And in person, I imagine people might be mingling, whether we would want them. Just be aware of spacing, and we have the outside. So you're invited to mingle after the service. There's a lot of fire today. We have several flames to be lit. And before we light our chalice, we will light the Advent candles. The season of Advent comes from our Christian ancestors, and much of the symbolism comes from the old pagan traditions. We all have something that we can find illuminating, comforting, challenging, or fulfilling by reinterpreting these old traditions. This year, during Advent, we'll light the candles in the wreath, one for each Sunday. The first candle was lit for hope, the first purple candle. And the second candle was lit last week for peace. Today, we light the third candle for joy. And not just simple cheer, but cheer! That experience of joy that cannot be contained. Advent asks us to proclaim our gladness as a gift to the world, even when sorrow and uncertainty abound. May we share our hearts through our words, our music, and the way we live our lives. As I light our fellowship chalice today, I invite you to say the words along with me. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. And now I'll come over here and ring the bowl a second time for a moment of centering and silent meditation.
Picture yourself in your local grocery store, walking down the aisle of salad dressings. There are so many flavors and choices that you have to pan your head from side to side to take it all in. Now, are you feeling overwhelmed? Or is it a feeling of, wow, abundance? I think sometimes the feeling of being overwhelmed comes when you realize you can't try them all. You're limited by cost and time before they go bad, and how many salads you're willing to eat. You can pick maybe 2, and grabbing a ranch dressing means you can't get balsamic. Buying honey mustard might mean leaving behind blue cheese. And you realize you can't enjoy them all. That's what feels overwhelming. It's like on Colorado Gives Day, when you get 100 emails asking for donations, and you know you can only answer 2, or 1, or none. If you have $20 to give, after bills and food and gas have hacked away at your bank account, do you hold that $20 bill and see the abundance that you have? That you met your needs and you still have this opportunity to joyfully share with your neighbor and your community? Or do you hold that same $20 bill and realize you can't help them all? This holiday season, before you give, whether it be presents, money, time, hugs, mittens, check in with yourself. If you want to give, and you want to give joyfully, remind yourself of the abundance in your life. Giving shouldn't feel overwhelming or guilt-ridden. It's a celebration of our love for one another. Wrap your arms around each other and your salads and let the joy in.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Kahn, and I've been organizing our Mitten Tree partnership with the Emergency Family Assistance Association, or EFA, for probably the last 10 years or so. Oh, thank you. I want to thank everyone who brought in mittens and gloves and scarves and hats over the past week and who brought them today. All the items are going to be given to EFA's family gift room, which starts tomorrow, so it's perfect timing. And also, if you brought guests at your table boxes, you can just leave them in that back table in the lobby, and we'll be sure to get them provided as well. So the kids have already just started decorating the mitten tree outside, right here, and it will be filmed outside, so just give us a minute and you'll be able to see it on the screens. And you'll see all the fun. See you soon.
Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint from which no steel had ever struck out a generous fire. Secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head and on his eyebrows and his wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. So often I hear people say, don't be a Scrooge, or don't be a Grinch. We know that story too, don't we? And the question comes up then. So for me, it's like, why do I feel so happy? Why do I have joy when I give? Well, one of the reasons, the nice scientific, maybe more the part that maybe some of the science-minded or humanistic might enjoy is, it actually does help our mental health. I found a lot of studies that showed how volunteering and generosity help to combat depression and other types of mental illnesses. And it doesn't need to be a give to your hurt scenario. Just a little bit goes a long way. Small amounts add up. And then we look at this congregation and we think of giving as a spiritual practice. When we observe giving through the lens of our faith, we can notice the ways that this can become a spiritual practice. And I imagine most of you, if not all, are familiar with the concept of tithing. 10% of your income goes to the church and more conservative religious faiths. Unitarian Universalism doesn't ask you to give 10%, but there are guidelines, if you are interested, that you can find based on your income and the amount of people that are in the household and where you live and all sorts of other variables, to give you a rough idea of what we would like to see come from you financially. But it's not about creating resentment around that. About, I got to pay them like I have to pay the Xcel Energy bill, and there goes my insurance money. We also realize that Unitarian Universalists are remarkably generous people, and that you share in more ways than just your church. There is Together Colorado around here. There is EFA. There is Boulder County Right Relationship. I've seen so many places where you give. It opens my heart wide. Was that 2 sizes bigger? Tithing or donating to your church or anything else isn't about making somebody feel shame or resentment or guilt. It's about contributing to something larger than oneself, to a greater good. It's a way to leave the universe a little better than we found it. It can't be valued the way we might value an object, like a car or a cup of coffee. I have noticed personally for myself that when I give financially, even at times when I've lived below the poverty line, I have felt more abundance in my life. I have felt more joy. Fear of scarcity or the lack mentality diminishes when I'm able to give something. And it doesn't have to be a lot for me to feel better. It's awesome that way. Earlier, Linda had mentioned Colorado Gives Day. And when I go on that website, I feel like a kid in a candy store. And I don't even have to worry about getting a bellyache by eating too much. It's actually a bit hedonistic. I'm going to give a little bit of my money or my time or my energy to someone or something else, and I feel better myself? Sweet. And it's not that I give to feel better. It just happens to be a really awesome side effect. And sometimes I admit, when I can't give for whatever reason, I do feel a little worse. It can be hard to pick and choose where to put my energies. And this does happen. And I forgive myself. I forgive myself for the judgments that I put on myself. Giving, not receiving, or not. This spiritual practice is a no-shame zone. Do it from love, do it from your heart. And if you don't do it, still do that. Do nothing from your heart and with love. Giving of our time can create beloved community, and it deepens our connections here and with others. What we create here is synchronistic, spreading out into the wider community. As a spiritual practice, create intentionality around what you're giving. And not just here at the congregation. But when else might you feel joy? Baking food and sharing it with friends and loved ones. Creating intentionality, lighting a candle, saying a prayer, calling out gratitude. This helps create the awareness around this sacred act of giving, and then also can create more joy. Lean into the idea that when you are giving along with others, it's synergistic. It's more bang for your buck. No one person could have built this fellowship. No one person could have put some money into it, and it's more than doubled the size. But look what you have created and waited for patiently. I hope you have some joy there, because I do. You are a joyous, giving community. I've been here for about a year and a half, and most of that I've not even had a chance to see you in person, and yet I feel the joy. I've seen it the other week at the auction. Things that were created and shared, handmade. I imagine I saw stuff that was from families that have stories behind it. Dinners for later to share. This type of giving creates joy and abundance, not just in the giver, but in the receiver. The half plates and full plates, the giving of time and volunteering and the energies. I will tell you, whoever turns on the dishwasher here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am not much of a dishwasher, so I so appreciate it. It's like, whoa, dishes are clean, dishes are dirty, I can do this. So thank you, lots of joy in you giving me that. I receive that gratefully. You've given extra to expand the beautiful building, and you acknowledge that it isn't just for you, but for the Boulder Valley community that this resides in. We've just donated for the mitten tree for EFA. That's glorious. Dr. Maria Michael, you've sent blankets and other goods to the Dene to help them. The bread service, those that made fresh bread and those that brought Wonder Bread. Oh yes, thank you. Notice what you have created by your joyous acts of giving. And don't just give to others. Give to yourself. Take some time when you need it and rest. Give yourself the joy of slumber. Give yourself the joy of good food that nourishes your soul. Give yourself the joy of whatever you need that gives you joy, because you know what it is. And behold that that is also sacred. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a man, as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, borough in the good old world. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us and of all of us. So with Scrooge and the Grinch, I kind of hope that you're like them and being open to the transformation of joyful giving, because they both did. And I hope that you continue to be transformed by joyous giving in yourselves, with each other, with the unknown, and with yourself. So, if you'd like a little more joy in your life, try giving just a little bit more. And if you can spare a couple hours a month, I will shamelessly plug that the ship needs more tech volunteers and service associates. And it's not a lot. An hour here, an hour there. We've got the people to train you. And you might find that you end up receiving more than you give. Amen, and blessed be.
Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives and this community by giving half of our plate away to those organizations that share our values. Today, as is our tradition, the full plate from the service will be donated to the Emergency Family Assistance Association. And here with us today is Mark Biggers. He's a volunteer and a former board member for EFA, who's donated a lot of time to this organization. Since 1918, EFA has been serving the community as a safety net for families who cannot meet their basic needs in the Boulder County area. EFA provides our neighbors with food through their food pantry, transitional housing, and financial assistance for critical necessities. EFA focuses on wraparound services to promote the health and the well-being of the entire family. One example is EFA's Keep Families Housed program, where case managers support participants while they pay a subsidized rent. EFA also has an after-school kids club and the family gift room, where I'm going to drop off all of the hats and mittens tomorrow. And the family gift room is where parents that are clients of EFA can choose gifts of all different kinds for all the different age groups of kids and their families around Christmas time. And I volunteered at the gift room last year, and it was so much fun. It was just such a great event. EFA's services are especially critical during the ongoing pandemic. And in this past year, in 2021, EFA supported almost 6,000 people, providing access to food, housing, and essential services. EFA gave $3.7 million in financial assistance this past year for rent, utilities, and minor medical and dental costs in the Boulder County area. And this was 3 times the amount of financial assistance that EFA had given prior to the pandemic. So just a huge increase in need and a huge increase in giving from the community. The Boulder Valley UU Fellowship has worked with EFA for many years, not only with the mitten tree, with our hats and gloves and monetary donations, but we also provide basic supplies for EFA family housing units. So please support EFA as it empowers families in crisis in our neighborhood to move toward financial stability and self-sufficiency. So the number to donate by text will be on a slide for those of you who wish to donate that way. For those in the building who wish to donate by check or cash, the greeters will pass among you and collect your donations. And there's also offering plates and boxes where you can place your offerings as you leave today. And as our musical reflection begins, we invite you to consider this question. Reflect on a time when you gave something and it filled your heart with joy. If you're on Zoom, we invite you to type your reflection into the chat. Thank you. For the work of this fellowship, bringing love, reason, compassion, and justice to this world and to EFA, we dedicate our offerings.
Now's our time of community sharing, our time of connection, and a sacred time in this congregation. When we come with our joys and our concerns, and some of them are spoken, and some of them we just take time to tap into our own hearts and see what's alive in there. Where is the struggle, and where's the joy as well? If you are on Zoom and you'd like to share a joy or a concern, you can type it into the chat, and then I will read it off of my trusty phone. And also, if you are a Holly in Fellowship Hall, I'm not sure if we have Hollies right now today, but if you happen to be a Holly, and you can give one to the greeters, you can write them down and give them to the greeters, and I'll also read them. And for anybody in the room, you are free to come up here and state your name and tell us where you live and share any joy or concern you have briefly, and then drop a stone into our sacred waters. Beloveds, these are the darker days of the year for us. Sometimes they come with challenges, and we are living in challenging times as well. And even in these darker days, it is possible to just tap in to joy. Just notice where you see beauty. In this moment, I can see the mitten tree, which is my most favorite tree every year. This is a time when many of us may feel overwhelmed, as Linda was speaking, or just tired from both the winter and the pandemic and all that we've been through as people in our own personal lives. And so the noticing that we have when we are together and when we are alone, of the possibilities of joy, of the moments of beauty, of the abundance of life, allow them to inform you. Let them be present. Let their presence be shown. This is a time when we have access to so much tragedy in the world. let us also open up to joy. And even though we must never turn away from the hard and the difficult and the challenging, we need to replenish ourselves with the love and the joy and the abundance. Both are ever present. We care for that which we love, so tapping into the love helps us also have the energy for the challenges before us. And in these days, in this community, let us share our love and our concern for those who are grieving the loss of friends who have lived good lives but still are gone from us. Let us reach out and recognize and support those who are supporting others on the front lines, whether they are our healthcare workers, our homeless advocates, those who are helping those on the brink of disaster, keeping them from there. Let us also open our hearts to those who struggle deeply with mental health issues during this time of year. Let us open our hearts to the trans community and all of the ways that systemic oppression impacts people, their mental health and their well-being. And also let us celebrate the joy of being together, the gifts of simply being alive. Take a deep breath with me right now. And savor that gift. If nothing else, we are here together, bound by love and justice, always. May this be our promise and our prayer. Blessed be.
And now for our announcements. A new tradition is in the works. There will be a homecoming holiday party Wednesday, December 29th at 1 p.m. An epic holiday party with white elephant, potatoes, and games, and possibly karaoke. This party is for all high school youth, present and past. Come spend the afternoon with friends, old and new. Youth group meets today from 12:30 to 1:30 at UU Church of Boulder, UUCB. And the coming of age for those already registered also meets today from 1:30 to 3:30 at UUCB. Christmas Eve offerings. Join us at 3 p.m. for an all-ages outdoor bonfire with face painting, hot chocolate, a s'mores bar, a photo booth, an optional cookie swap, a kids' book exchange, and plenty of holiday cheer. Then at 8 p.m. we will have our traditional candles and carols service in the sanctuary, fellowship hall, and on Zoom. Would you like to attend any of the remaining December services in person? There is a link to fill out the form in the Connections Weekly. Filling out the form doesn't guarantee a seat for any particular service. You will get an email by Wednesday preceding a service, letting you know whether there is space for you in person. All Sunday services will remain open to all on Zoom. If you're here in person and don't receive Connections Weekly, you can see the greeters at the welcome table to sign up. If you're on Zoom, the information about reservations and Connections Weekly is in the chat.
So we extinguish our chalice today, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. And for our benediction, I'd like to offer you an ode to joy. It's about 5 minutes long, so if you need to go, please go. And if not, move as the Spirit moves you. Maybe do a little air conducting. Thank you. Amen, and blessed be.